Hi, and welcome to this special conversation. My name is Vineet Malhotra. Today, we're going to talk about political U-turns. We're going to talk about political U-turns in the sense that why do politicians change lanes or rather take U-turns? Is it something which is an existentialist need for them once they feel that what they set out for isn't working, or is it the pursuit of power that makes them want and yearn to go to a party or go to a place where they think that their fortunes are going to be revised, their fortunes are going to be revived, and they will end up getting what they set out to when they decided to join politics in the first place. Position is absolutely crucial to a politician. Being in the woods for a very long time definitely poses a threat to that politician's prospects in the future. And to talk more about this, I have a couple of fellow journalists who are going to tell me what they think about a number of stalwarts who have in fact changed their party line. They have jumped ship, they have been turncoats, and what may have you can call them by a number of names, but that is definitely something which has been very rampant and very apparent in the last few years, specifically after 2014. We saw what happened during the West Bengal elections. There were a number of people who went to the BJP, and when the BJP lost, some of them decided to come back. And Sambit Pal and Rasheed Kidwai, both good friends and honorable journalists and thinkers, is what I'd like to call them, are with me on this intelligent conversation. I'm hoping it'll be intelligent conversation. Rashid, I'm going to start with you. This is something which has confused a number of people. If you talk about people like Jyotiraditya Scindia, he's in a comfortable spot today. He's a union minister with the BJP. He has the same portfolio which his father has. People in the TMC who went to the BJP, some of them came back, some of them did not. They compromised with their ideology, and at times, Rashid, they also basically compromise with the result they set out to produce as politicians. Public is not stupid anymore. We know that if a politician is jumping ship, if he's crossing over, that means he only is looking out for himself. How is the public supposed to trust such a politician? Is the first question I want to ask you.
Thank you, Vineet, and I'm grateful to this Delhi Book Fair, pragatiE, Vichaar, for inviting me and holding this very timely and I think very important discussion on the subject of political U-turns. Political U-turn, to my mind, Vineet, they are of two kinds. One is of individual, this thing that you gave very good examples, and other ones are institutional one. Political parties, kind of change gear and take a very sharp U-turn depending upon whether they are in opposition or they are in ruling party. So both Congress and BJP, the two national parties, are guilty of that. There are a number of things that over a course of conversation we'll be talking about those specific issues. Other one is, which is more pertinent and most disturbing, is about individual defections. Somehow this is a very unique feature of a Indian political system or Indian parliamentary system, because in the Westminster model of parliamentary democracy that exists in Britain or most of the Western democracies in Europe or even in America, defections are quite unthinkable. They do not happen as a matter of routine. And because, first of all, their own kind of character is such, because there is a lot of focus on propriety and not so much on the legality of it. Here we look at it everything in black and white. Is it legal or is it not legal? Because mind you, propriety in public life is far more important than the legal aspect of it. And somehow the voters are not so much conscious. I was hearing you out and you were kind of giving some kind of allowance to the voters, but as a political reporter, my own experience is that voters are quite indifferent towards these defections. In Bengal's context, that many of the people who had left TMC and joined the BJP and lost, that's a different story. That was because of that Mamta's aura and all that the TMC won. But you look at in Madhya Pradesh, when you gave example of Jyotiraditya Scindia, the 18 MLAs, 22 MLAs, 25 MLAs defect with him in various batches, and 80% of them come back. So that tells you, and within 15 months of a formation of a government in a state where there is a two-party system. So I think voters are quite indifferent. There are a number of factors playing role, and this is something which is a very disturbing feature of our political system.
So, if voters are indifferent to an individual changing party lines, changing his ideology, if we may call it that, then what exactly is the voter going for in a politician? Is it the personality? Mr. Kidwai also, put out a very important and exclusive point that this really doesn't happen in America. I've lived in the U.S. I have hardly ever come across an instance when a Republican went to the Democrats, or somebody from the Conservative Party went to the Labour Party. It's only in India that people sort of jump ships, and even when they do, their image and the propriety factor stays intact. Why is that? And is it a mystery?
See, in India, what happens, I think, Rashid, you also will agree with me that, people vote for the party rather than the individual in most of the cases. And that's why, they probably get away with changing sides and, getting a symbol of a party and then, get elected. About, US, I was just going through some research papers. So defections happen, but, not such blatantly, like, in 70 years, like 70 congressmen change sides. So that is the percentage you can understand, what happens. But if you look at Indian perspective, in almost every state, we see this kind of defections happening. And at least in case of, Madhya Pradesh, or in case of, say, Karnataka, they chose to resign from the post of MLA and, try to go to the people and get elected. But you just mentioned about Bengal, and since I come from Bengal, and this is a very interesting topic to me, and I was so excited. There, people do not resign from the post of MLA. They remain MLA. They change side, and there is no decision by the speaker, and this is remain being a part of a party with which whose symbol they did not win the elections. And they get re-elected sometimes, but this time what happened, about 34 MLAs had joined from TMC to BJP, and a lot of them also lost the elections, and some of them of course won, like the leader of the opposition in Bengal Assembly, Shubhendu Adhikari, who jumped ship just before the election and he got elected, and he is the leader of the opposition in BJP's line. So the moral question that we need to ask, that get bypassed by the fact that let people decide, if we are right or wrong, and if they get elected, that get legitimized. So that is a problem here in Indian democracy, I guess, that the people vote for party symbol, looking at the supreme leader of that party probably, and these people get elected.
I would rather take what you have said with a pinch of salt, and I'm hoping Mr. Kidwai would agree with me that when people vote in India, they vote for the party, but that is not the phenomena, Mr. Kidwai, that defines the BJP. For most of the states, either be it a UP or a West Bengal, they do not even announce the chief ministerial candidate because they are hoping that the clout and the image of Narendra Modi is going to suffice until they win the election. So is it true to entirely say that when people vote in India, they're looking at the party and not the individual?
I think we must remember one thing, that nothing is simple in India. We can go on giving examples and we can build our own narrative. Personality is very important. Sometimes what we saw in Lok Sabha election, Mr. Narendra Modi led the BJP in 2019 in particular to victory. You look at, in December 2018, there was assembly elections in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and the BJP was routed. In 6 months or less than 6 months, in May, when Lok Sabha elections were announced, out of the 65 Lok Sabha seats in these 3 states, the Congress got just 2, and the BJP got almost 63 of them. Now, how do you explain? Nothing had changed in 6 months' time in terms of parties and policies and programs and work in progress, etc. But was, I could say that, it was a Narendra Modi magnet. You see in Bengal also, whoever Mamta fielded, regardless of who that individual was, barring of course a handful of them, they won because they were Mamta's nominees, or very good candidates lost simply because they were Mamta's opponents. So we have this kind of huge personality cult in the states, and in many places, of course, like we saw in Uttar Pradesh 2017 election, the BJP won, and then BJP appointed Yogi Adityanath as a chief minister. It was the elections of 2017 was not fought under Yogi Adityanath's leadership. Similar case was in Haryana, where earlier election, Mr. Khattar was not projected. In many states, I can give this example, when or in Jharkhand, when the BJP had formed that government, Raghuveer Das came from almost nowhere. So this happened, both models work. But I think, if I'm allowed to say so, India is increasingly becoming a very kind of prime ministerial democracy. People vote for the prime minister or the chief minister, and then the party has become, or candidate have become secondary. I mean, it's something very interesting I want to tell you. In the first election, 1951-52 election, what was that Congress slogan? The Congress slogan was, a vote for Nehru is a vote for Congress, not the other way around. Not the vote for Congress is a vote for Nehru. So that time also, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was a very, very, kind of towering personality who helped the Congress win not only in 51 election, but 57 election, 62 election, etc.
Mhm. Right. And Sambit, there's another phenomena which is sort of unraveling in our country as the BJP has gone from strength to strength. The Congress party has become only hollow and rather weak over the past few years. At the end of it, Sambit, it is an organization. Party members have to make ends meet. They have to justify their relevance of being in a particular party. What do you think of this new phenomena that's taking place in the Congress party, where even the states that they have a hold on, for instance, like Punjab and now Chhattisgarh, are perhaps going to slip away from their fingers, and thus their cadre and politicians and members of the party will also slip away from their fingers because of mismanagement?
Yeah, I mean, Congress is rather less at this moment, if I can say so. And as Rashidji was mentioning that, this is a fight between personalities these days. And, people in India, they love to do this idol worshipping. And that's why Mamata Banerjee wins. That's why Jayalalitha used to win. That's why Lalu Prasad Yadav used to win at one point of time. So, and, the Uttar Pradesh scenario, or even in Tripura, where BJP, outside the left front government, and they also didn't project any chief ministerial candidate there, but Modi Karishma probably worked in the states. So that is where I think Congress is lagging behind at this moment, because Rahul Gandhi has been tested and he has failed in 2 elections, and you need someone to come up against Narendra Modi with proper ideological war that you need to launch against BJP and RSS. But where is that face? Where is that ideology? Where is that agenda? You cannot just fight one, particular individual saying that, okay, you want this person to be out. It's not that easy fight that you can, think of at this moment. And that is where, the indecision in Congress party is probably, giving them the trouble of mismanagement in other states. Like in West Bengal, I'll again go back to the state where I belong to. Rahul Gandhi just, had gone there and attended just one election rally during this 2021 assembly elections, or 1 or 2, I think, in northern part of Bengal. So they did not, how would you encourage the workers at the grassroots level if you do not, show that kind of leadership?
Do you think there's a difference between the Congress and the BJP? Because Rahul Gandhi thought that going to West Bengal is irrelevant. However, a number of stalwarts from the BJP, like Yogi Adityanath and some of the other people, they did go to South India. They went to Kerala, they went to Tamil Nadu, knowing that it is a tough battle for them there.
Yeah, they could have, Rahul Gandhi could have gone to, had looked serious. I'm not saying that, he had to go to all the constituencies and that was useless, because Congress doesn't have that kind of power and, clout in all over West Bengal. But, the seriousness that you need to show, if you see that, Priyanka Gandhi, again, I'm just deviating a little probably. Priyanka Gandhi was appointed the General Secretary of Uttar Pradesh, in charge of Uttar Pradesh. How many times she has gone there and fought? We have seen them, on certain occasions coming up and just, popping out and, trying to reach out to people there. But that's not the way you can run a political party against organized, personality-led party like BJP at this moment.
Mr. Kidwai, do you think that the BJP, because of its cadre system, they have a hierarchy, they have a system of doing things. It doesn't matter, as what they say, how big a personality is. You have to go through the grind. You have to go through the work and the rungs of success to get to the top. They, in a way, have made the party system corporatized. And that is exactly what the other parties also need to do today in order to survive. And that is the same reason why you have people jumping ship.
Yes, Vineet, it is very, I would say, fashionable to talk in these terms and build this kind of narrative. And BJP is very good at, building this kind of narrative. But if you look at that, you look at, I talked about Nehruvian era. Now I would come to Indira Gandhi era. It was not that there was a dearth of good opposition leaders. There was not only Jayaprakash Narayan, Jyoti Basu, Ram Manohar Lohia, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, range of leaders and very good orators, very good people who could mesmerize the crowd, etc. And yet they could not beat Indira Gandhi till it happened in 1977. So, and because of emergency, etc. So what I'm saying is, it's not that the quality of opposition was not good. It was because that Indira Gandhi's persona was so towering that the others could not match. They were getting votes. If you look at that Congress story today, of course, it looks very, chaotic and I would say sometimes even laughable, etc. It's not that the Congress is not getting votes. It's the kind of political system. In 2014, they got 10 crores vote. In 2019, they got 17 crore votes. So they are getting votes, but they're not getting enough votes to win seats. If you look at the, we have that kind of system, first past the post. And I must emphasize here that this has been, Congress has itself been very, kind of beneficiary of this thing. What I say, that first past the post system. It's only in 1984 when Indira Gandhi was assassinated and Rajiv Gandhi won a massive mandate that Congress got 50% and more votes. No political party in India today, since 1952 election, has got 50% or more votes. Total. The BJP is not getting it, the Congress was not getting it. So at one stage, you could say that all these excuses are quite lame. But what I'm saying is, there are high points in our life of a political party and there are low points. But U-turn is something that is very unique to our political culture. I mean, at some time, Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav, when he was a chief minister and a key player in Uttar Pradesh politics, he used to take so many U-turns that there was a joke, since I come from UP, that, when you are going on a national highways and all, there is a signal which tells you about the U-turn. They said, instead, let's put Mulayam Singh's photograph. So people would not know that there is a U-turn there. So this is a kind of political legacy we have had, and yet Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav has been very, successful politician. You look at, the Indo-US nuclear deal, the BJP opposed bitterly. You remember when Dr. Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister, and now Prime Minister Modi says it is a centerpiece of Indo-US relations, and he says it with a lot of ease. In 2010, when Narendra Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat, he said about this farm sector reforms. That time, farm reforms was initiated by Dr. Manmohan Singh. And Modi ji, who was a part of the Chief Minister's conclave, and he said that no, without this kind of, minimum MSP, etc., and safeguards and all, we cannot allow this farm sector reforms. So point, Vineet, I'm making here is that our political culture is quite, fascinating. And we get very much thrilled by, personalities. We don't realize that it is logic, rationality, consistency, and all have no place, or very little place in our politics.
Absolutely. So when they say everything is fair in love and war, they forgot to include politics in that, Sambit. But let's also talk about the fact, that there hasn't been too much of an outflow when it comes to turncoats in the BJP. Why do you think that is?
Asking me?
No, Sambit.
Yeah, I mean, turncoats in BJP, you mean that, the people coming to BJP or going out of BJP, going out of BJP? Yeah. So I think, it's power, wherever there is power, people try to stick to it, and especially politicians. That is the kind of, experience that we have here in India, at least.
If you exclude Yashwant Sinha, yes.
Yeah, there are few, of course. I mean, there are exceptional people, of course. I agree to that. But look at West Bengal again. That we had this 34 MLAs shifting the shape from TMC to BJP, and now they are making a beeline to TMC's office, and they want to come back. And already 2 MLAs have come back. And if you take the example of Mukul Roy, who had gone to BJP, and now he has again come back to TMC, and said that he was feeling suffocated, he was not allowed to work and stuff like that. So that is what is happening. So I would say that as long as a particular political party is in power, people try to stick to it. And when they are, kind of sleeping their ground, and they sense it, and then they come. Rashid ji had given example of Mulayam Singh Yadav. I think I can take the example of Ramvilas Paswan, who has always, jumped ships, and he knew that, when to jump the ship. And many political reporters actually used to follow his movement. And you have seen that he was part of UPA, he was part of BJP led government, NDA government. So I think the power that matters a lot.
But Rashid, there have been a number of subsets, a number of subsidiaries that have come out of the Congress party. The TMC, the NCP, and these are all parties that broke away because they were unhappy in some way with the high command. Why hasn't this happened with the BJP? They've also been in existence for a long time.
I think, Vineet, first and all, we must remember that BJP by and large is quite ideologically driven party. People come, from some kind of ideological background. And mind you, there is a lot of influence of RSS. People get trained in RSS. Obviously now RSS is producing all kind of things, all kind of products, I would say. But there was a time when you could identify RSS people. They were supposedly men of some integrity when it came to money, and they were not hankering for power. Those kind of some of these qualities they had. See, the Congress story is very different, and I think there is a increasingly Congressization of the BJP. The way many people have been inducted from right, left, center, with regardless of ideology, and many people are being taken in on account of caste, etc. I think the results would show in 10-20 years from now. Just as what Indira Gandhi did, that kind of naked opportunism or brute power and all, it destroyed the Congress, but it took ages. It took few decades for Congress to disintegrate in the kind of shape that it is in. See, you must remember who are the people who are leaving the Congress. I mean, I'm just trying to provoke you, Vineet, to this aspect. Who are these people who are leaving? It is not those party people, or those who have been kind of loyal party men. It is the second generation, third generation dynasty, the people who are well heeled, people who got everything, whether it was Sushmita Dev or Jitin Prasad or Jyotiraditya Scindia and many others. So if you do the if you look at the 15 people who have left the Congress and joined the BJP, probably you will be surprised to see that there are about 10 and 12 who are from kind of dynasty culture. So Congress perpetuated this dynasty system, and now they are regretting at leisure. It's still a family-run party, so they cannot make much noises. Also, they cannot denounce it. This is a thing. So I am saying, in simple terms, there is back to basic formula for all political parties, or sticking to the basics. People don't stick to basics. They don't play test cricket. They get into this T20 mode, play all kind of reckless shots and become heroes. But when they go to test, then they struggle. Like you see sometimes our batsmen are struggling at present. So this is long and short of it, that many shortcuts are taken and political parties suffer.
Sambit, what do you think of the third front? The TMC is expected to be a big chunk of that third front, and it's getting itself up for the 2024 elections. Is it going to be sort of a free fall of turncoats when that frontier opens up in 2024? Because every election is also a very big opportunity for some politicians.
Yeah, 2024 is far away in a sense, if you look at it in political terms, because UP elections is coming up, and then you'll have to.
Sharad Pawar has already started congregating all parties.
I know. And Mamata Banerjee has an aspiration to lead the third front that you are calling, and she is not talking about third front, but she has aspiration, and Sharad Pawar probably also has aspiration. So we need to see that how it formulates, like how the parties come together and how they allow the Congress to play its part in the whole this opposition space. Because without Congress, I do not think that any front of that sort can actually succeed. At least if they want to go all out against BJP, RSS, and Narendra Modi led government, or Narendra Modi, Amit Shah's bandwagon that's very much dominant at this moment. So they need to come together, think about an agenda, so they realize it. Because Mamata Banerjee has been talking about it in her recent Delhi visit. She has talked about it. she has met some people, but again, Sharad Pawar didn't meet Mamata Banerjee in Delhi. He had gone to meet Lalu Prasad Yadav at the same time when Mamata Banerjee was there in Delhi. Mamata Banerjee met Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, but they skipped a lot of meetings that was called by Rahul Gandhi in the capital when this monsoon session of parliament was on. So there is a lot of tension. They need to weed out this tension and then come together. And as I said before, and that is realized by, I think, all the opposition leaders, that they need to set an agenda. They need to work towards that goal of uprooting this Narendra Modi-led government. They need a proper face to match the this towering personality like Narendra Modi, the narrative they have created. So they need to build a counter narrative in India to win a 2024 election. So if all the political parties are coming together, opposition political parties, that's good. But what is about Naveen Patnaik? What is about, say, TRS? Right, so we need to consider them as well, and of course Congress Party. So that is a very complicated calculations they need to do, and I think Prashant Kishore has been entrusted to do that backroom job, but we do not know as yet what happens. And as I said, 2024 is quite far away in political terms.
Right, and Rashid, there's another carrot which is available to the voter these days, and that is the lure of double engine ki sarkar. Sheila Dikshit's days are cited as being very, very fruitful for the city of Delhi, because in the center it was the Congress, the state it was the Congress as well, and obviously this mismatch of governance is also being used to lure voters. Do you think that is the case?
No, Vineet, before I respond to your kind of serious question, let me just respond to what Mr. Pal said about Sharad Pawar. And Sharad Pawar is a very fascinating character. I've written a lot about him. Narasimha Rao ji once told me that, once there was some conversation, and he asked Sharad Pawar, what is 2 and 2? And Sharad Pawar said, it depends whether you are selling or you're buying. There was another Home Minister of India, Shankar Rao Chavan, and he used to narrate another anecdote about Sharad Pawar, and he used to say that, remember there was a Hawala scandal, a lot of politicians were named. It was about, some kind of financial irregularities, and Pawar's name was not there. So we asked Shankar Rao Chavan, the Home Minister, that why Pawar's name is not there. And Shankar Rao Chavan was a very kind of serious looking politician, and he looked and he smiled and he said, don't you know all Hawala transactions are based on trust? So there is element of trust deficit, what Mr. Sambit Pal was saying in a very academic sense, and I had given it from anecdotal form. See, coming back to this double engine theory, actually I'm using word theory because it's there on a piece of paper. It happens, it's visible in so to say urban centers. You can say about Haryana, about Delhi, about some of the smaller states. You can see those results. But big states, Bihar, tell me, has it double engine helped in any way? Or in Uttar Pradesh? I mean, I'm not saying from political position. I'm saying in pragmatic terms, in very hardcore economic indicators or UNDP reports or whatever you want to say. So basically, this double engine is more of a rhetoric, and that's where our voter is very smart. Voter can see through it. So in states, there is all kind of verdict comes in, and probably you'll see it in Punjab, in Uttarakhand, in Jharkhand, and many places, in Delhi also. You look at Delhi, all 6 out of 6, seats, BJP gets it, or 7 out of 7. When it's assembly elections, the BJP, gets blank or gets 3-4 seats out of that, 70 seats. So this is something very fascinating. Voting behavior is something very different, and a lot of things come in. The BJP's strength, I always feel, is its ability to build a narrative, but sometimes it gets its own, it falls into its own propaganda. That's exactly what happened in Bengal.
Yeah, and I'll give example of Orissa. There they have elections simultaneously for assembly and Lok Sabha. In Lok Sabha, BJP candidates win, and in the state, the BJD led by Naveen Patnaik, they win. So this, again, as Rashid rightly pointed out, there's a narrative that is being created. How do you say that if you have a government, same government at the state and in at the center, how would it matter much? Like this is a federal democracy that we have, and it shouldn't matter. That shouldn't be the thing. That whichever government is there at the state level, they should be helped, and there should be, this is cooperative federalism that we talk about, and that is what exactly Modi ji had also talked about when he had come to power. So this is something, a bad, negative narrative in a sense that is created most of the time.
Sambit, couple of questions for you. Do you think that the atmosphere, has changed politically in India? It changed in a different way in 2014 when Narendra Modi came for the first time, and it changed dramatically after 2019. Do you think that is the case?
Yeah, since 2014, as we were discussing that, this personality war that began. Before that, there was not so much a personality war. There was some other kind of political fight we have seen, but this is when Narendra Modi projected himself to be the messiah of whole of India, and he has projected himself in a brilliant way using all the means, like social media, like advertisement campaign, and there was not or not any strong face against him, and Rahul Gandhi had failed at that time, and he has taken advantage of that situation, and they have built on that narrative step by step by step. And even now, I would say that Indians love to do idol worshipping, and we do not have that kind of face against Narendra Modi. And Mamata Banerjee has, as rightly probably, she's trying to capture that space and say that, okay, I am the face against Narendra Modi because I have defeated the Narendra Modi Amit Shah bandwagon there in Bengal, and they couldn't do much. So I am the face who can fight Narendra Modi, but it will take time to take shape. And that is what has happened in Indian politics, I think, post 2014. And the election is not just fought with EVM boxes and campaigns that we used to see. It's more than that. Building the narrative, and going out to people with such promises, high promises, and projecting yourself as a larger than life figure. So that is what is happening at this moment, I guess. And Rasheed ji can add to it in a more detailed way, nuanced way.
I'm going to take a leaf out of what you said, Sambit, and Mr. Kidwai, I want you to respond to that. Can the politicians of the TMC and Mamata Banerjee really, in essence, celebrate their victory, in these elections? Because let's not forget where the BJP came from. If you talk about the first time that they fought in West Bengal, they drew a blank. The second time, I think they had 3 to 4 seats. And this time around, they have done extremely well. The percentage of victory or win is 1,000%, a few 1,000% more than the last result. Isn't that something that should be worrying the TMC? And they seem to be gloating in their latest victory.
Yes, Vineet, in theoretical academic sense, indeed. But see, in our political system, again, I would say as a political reporter, there is no silver medal in politics. So either you have won or you have not won. Mr. C.P. Joshi lost by 1 vote in 2008 assembly elections of Rajasthan, and he didn't become chief minister. I mean, today I'm mentioning C.P. Joshi, so many people would not even know that he was a contender. So I'm saying that it just changes that whole complexion of the political system. See, we must remember that whenever there is a towering personality or a very strong leader, after that, when people get disillusioned for whatever reason, I'm not saying in 2024 people will get disillusioned with Mr. Modi and BJP. I am saying what happened when first time the Congress lost in 1977. So it was Indira Gandhi, and it came as the Khichdi Sarkar, where Morarji Bhai and Charan Singh became chief ministers. You look at Rajiv Gandhi, the best ever mandate. I told you about more than 50% votes plus 415 Lok Sabha seats out of 543. And then again you had VP Singh, Khichdi Sarkar with the BJP on the left, and again Chandrasekhar. Then came PV Narasimha Rao, again a kind of, I would say, a towering personality, and Khichdi Sarkar of United Front, Deve Gowda and Gujral. 6 years of Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a very learned man and a very, I would say, true sense son of India, again followed by Khichdi Sarkar of Manmohan Singh. So I am saying that just from going by that history, I know Vineet, you are you're young, and your ideas may be very different from old man like me. But I am just saying that people of India, if they go for change, they will not be looking a Modi-like figure. They will be looking for a regional leader, for a someone who's far more accommodating towards states, etc. Because after all, India is a union of states. So maybe it may happen in 29 or whenever it will happen, you will see a very drastic kind of rainbow coalition which will come to power.
Hmm. Sambit, taking a leaf out of what Mr. Kidwai said, that India definitely has to have a contender when it comes to taking on the BJP and Prime Minister Modi. Is there anybody who crosses your mind from the current crop?
There are many who can actually, be like that. And as I said, that Mamata Banerjee is the face. There is no doubt about that. She has fought the elections, and it was a very, very tough elections in Bengal. She can be one, but then again, as Rashidji was suggesting, that if it's a Khichdi Sarkar, then you need to accommodate everyone, and that understanding has to happen. And if you wait, wait for the elections to happen and then come together, that formula wouldn't really work, and that didn't work in 2019. There was an attempt to have this United India Front, and that didn't actually take off. So I think at this moment, standing in 2021, the opposition parties need to come together. They need to tell people, okay, this is on what we are going to fight these elections. And if people are getting resolutions, there will be anti-incumbency factor anyway. But we again do not know what tricks and what cards that BJP will play at that moment. Last time it was nationalism. It was this whole attack against India and stuff like that that had come up. So that's why I'm saying that it's a long run that the politicians need to run at this moment to reach 2024, and we'll have to wait for that. Who comes up as a face and fight this election?
Right, Mr. Kidwai, we are almost nearing the end of our conversation, a brilliant conversation interaction we've had so far. What's the future of India's political integrity? I know I'm using those two words together, political integrity. It may be an oxymoron, but nevertheless, when it comes to political integrity, what I mean is the longevity and the consistency of the members of a particular party staying with that party.
I think your answer is actually twofold. One is that we can draw a lot of strength and feel proud that we have a very vibrant political system. I mean, people are not, losing faith in democracy. You see that the lines that, the queues outside every polling station is getting longer. Our voting percentage is going up constantly in Bengal. Mr. Pal comes from, sometimes it's 85, 90% people poll, cast their votes. So this is something very redeeming. But I am very, very disappointed. It's very corrupt system we are doing. We have 75 lakh as a, poll expenses ceiling. And every political party, every individual, Vineet, I pains me to tell you this, is guilty of violating that. No one spends 75 lakhs. In assemblies, that the figure is just 50 lakhs or less, and no one spends that. So this is something at that level we all are. So we need to, all the electoral bonds and all haven't helped. We need to have a state funding of elections and all, so that the corrupt system, because something that built on corruption cannot yield goodness, and this is a real problem for every concerned citizen, including me.
I'm tempted to ask you this question, though it might be a little off the road, but I still want to know your views upon one nation, one election.
One nation, one election was there till 1967, but you can't put that clock back. And secondly, in democracy, this uncertainty is a biggest beauty of it. You can't take away that. You cannot have a permanent tenure. It may look good. And second thing, again, it's a very elitist thing that, to say, oh, the taxpayers' money is going down the drain. I have not seen taxpayers' money being used for any good purpose. So it's the two different things. That's what I'm saying. It is, we try to make complex things look simple. And the BJP is very good at it. But I am totally opposed to it.
All right, Sambit, concluding thoughts from you. And then we're going to take concluding thoughts from Mr. Kidwai and wrap up this interesting session.
Yes, I just think that people, the politicians should be true to their ideology. That is what is missing at this moment. That there is no moral, moral ground they can claim. Most of them they cannot claim that moral ground, and that should stop. And people should be true to the voters who are voting them to power, and serve their purpose rather than their own individual or party's purpose.
Right, I know you talk about ideology, and I broke out in laughter because at times politicians really don't care about the ideology,
Don't.
and it reminds me of a thing that Einstein used to say, that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a wall, then you will always be disappointed. And I think that's what exactly our politicians also do. They think that ideology is something that they can tweak as per their convenience. Mr. Kidwai, concluding thoughts from you.
I don't think there is going to be drastic change. As I said, our political system is working very well, maybe a good 7 or 8 on a scale of 10. Only thing is that we need to make some informed choice. We get swayed by very emotional kind of narrative. And that is something I find it, maybe because of my gray hair, I find that bit disturbing.
All right. What do you think needs to change in the Indian political system?
I think voters' maturity, because when you cast vote, you are basically bringing, someone in or voting someone out. It cannot be on the basis of any emotive issue. I'm not purposely bringing religion, etc. I'm just saying you cannot be voting on impulse, on emotional issues. You need to take you need to make a informed choice, like we do it in whatever consumer durables we buy. We do a lot of this, lekha joka calculation. But I'm saying when it comes to elected representative, unfortunately, we don't do that.
Right. I'm tempted to ask Sambit this question as well. Sambit, what do you think needs to change, in our political outlook? Mr. Kidwai feels it's the voters' maturity, and I also feel that it's the engagement and rather the interest of the voter that also needs to change.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be swayed away by the propaganda. They need to understand, realize from their own life experience what they're experiencing. And they should make the choice depending on their experience in daily life. And that is what is required at this moment, and just not get swayed away by propaganda and this digital age, this lot of misinformation that comes. They need to pick up the right information and then make right choice.
Do you think that because of the digitization of everything that is done or seen or read, it has confused the voter?
Yeah, there's a lot of sources of information these days, and these old newspaper days are all gone, where you have curated experience of news. Nowadays, you have everything coming together in front of you, and you are choosing what matches with your belief, and your belief gets stronger day by day, and you go by that, and you do not look around, and you fall into an echo chamber. So we need to come out of that and test everything with our experience and then make informed choice.
Absolutely. Well, we started to talk about turncoats and political parties and politicians changing party line. But politics is basically quicksand. The minute you step into it, you're pulled into the various facets, very interesting facets, which are attached to it like an octopus's limb. But nevertheless, it's been a very invigorating conversation with Mr. Kidwai and Mr. Pal. Thank you so much for speaking with me. And I hope everyone who's been watching this enjoyed this intellectual conversation. Thank you.